At every Mass, we pray the prayer, "Grant her peace and unity in accordance with your will." It's this prayer that comes right before we offer each other the sign of peace. And in today's Gospel and in the readings this weekend, we're encouraged to put this prayer into practice, as Christ commands his disciples and teaches us that we are to reconcile with one another and with the church, because ultimately where 2 or 3 are gathered in his name, where we agree upon the same thing, there Christ dwells amongst us. Truly then is that prayer brought to fulfillment. Grant her peace and unity, where we truly live in accordance with God's will. In the Gospel, it tells us that we achieve that through reconciling with one another, overcoming our differences so that we may be united as a community of one mind and one heart, sourced and rooted in the person of Christ. The Gospel tells us that this occurs through reconciling with one another, of forgiving each other our debts or correcting one another through fraternal correction. But this ultimately occurs in 2 main ways, which we hear in the Psalm and in the second reading by St. Paul, that we are to listen to his voice with not hard hearts, that we're able to hear his voice calling us, first and foremost, back to himself. And secondly, St. Paul encourages us to offer to everyone the gift of love, to recognize that we are called by Christ to love one another, as it is truly the fulfillment of the law. When we listen to Christ's voice, and when we love one another as Christ has first loved us, then we're able to really put into practice that beautiful prayer, encouraging us to really live in the peace and unity of Christ, so as to be able to give that peace to one another. Ultimately, this occurs when we are firstly ourselves able to reconcile with God, first and foremost in the confessional, in our own prayer, where we ultimately do learn to hear his voice and be attentive to receiving his love, so that as we ourselves are first forgiven and reconciled with God, we may learn that great gift of compassion, strengthening us as Christians, so as to be able to invite others and to correct others in accordance with God's will, so that they too may receive his love and his peace and live in the unity that Christ calls us all to live in, the unity of his church, to be in communion with him. And that is my game plan for this Sunday. I hope to see you all there. God bless.